What's up,
Hello,
Faye? How are you?
hello. How are you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Awesome. Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Okay, I'm going to start off. We have a fantastic sponsor. Starting off up at the top, we have MISTR. That's spelled MISTR. They provide free online prep. It's prescribed online and delivered right to your door. It's free whether you have insurance or not. 100% free. You sign up online and you complete a video consultation with the doctor. Submit an at-home STI test kit, and that's it. It's prep delivered to you and automatically renewed each month. It's free and discreet. You guys, how are you? How has your Valentine's Day been today so far?
We've been working.
But
we good.
It's still early too. It's still early.
How's your day been?
Pretty good. Pretty good, honestly. Pretty good. I'm living the single life. I'm
turned on by itself. Sorry about that.
You're fine. And I'm living the single life, so I'm just taking in everybody else's love, and just hoping and praying one day.
Oh, you gotta love on yourself too. It's Valentine's.
Yes, you're right. You're so right.
That's the most important
okay,
one.
so I just really have to talk about this awesome gift I just saw. This Da Vinci Code gift, please. Tell me, I need like you're my pal.
Well, now you know what I've been working on all day. For y'all that don't know, Elliott got me a Valentine's Day gift. Let me go grab it actually, because it's better if y'all see the vision.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah, I'll explain it while he grabs it. He bought me a what's it called? A cryptex. One of my favorite movies is the Da Vinci Code, and in that movie, they're on a quest to find the Holy Grail, and part of that quest is they got to unlock this little cryptex thing that has like 500,000 combinations. So he bought me one for Valentine's Day, and it came. I finally got it open.
That is wow.
The code was "I love you," and there was a beautiful love letter inside. I'm not gonna tell y'all what it said, but it was very sweet.
I try to be thoughtful every now and then.
No, you ate that. That was that. I saw that and I was like, okay, now hold on now. What the rest of us gonna do now? Because that was next freaking level. Also, it's y'all's anniversary, am I right?
Yeah.
Happy
7 years.
anniversary. That's so dope. Oh
Thank
my god.
you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say too, thank you just for this whole platform, because I know I've said this in private, but I'm a big believer in giving people their flowers in public. And this platform to me has done a lot for our community. I love the way that you all show the good, the bad, the ugly, every single layer of our community, the cool, the corny, the nerdy, the creatives, everything. I really appreciate that.
No problem. It's awesome. It really is awesome. And it's awesome to have people like y'all come on too, because it's kind of the same thing where you're also in the space where you're giving representation. So it's like it's awesome that it's crazy that it's cool that we have like the ability now to like kind of come together as a community and have like these spaces and stuff like that.
Yeah. I know it's hard for some people, but all these gay couples I saw today, I mean, gay black couples and that, it was beautiful.
Yeah. So what do you guys have planned for today? Have you have anything like special planned, or is it just, how do y'all feel about like Valentine's Day in general? I mean, it's y'all's anniversary, so it's a little bit different.
Right. It is completely different since it's our anniversary.
And this is the first year we have not done a trip for our anniversary. We normally go somewhere, but it's been so busy for us, we didn't get a chance to plan one this year.
Not at all. Yeah, usually it'll be like, all right, we'll be here today and then going tomorrow. But yeah, it's a full day and a full week here in the States.
So today we literally, after this, we were gonna go out for a little bit. Brandon Anthony here is having like a Love Jones party, and we were gonna try and go to that, but then my sister and her husband are going out to dinner, so they were like, "Hey, can you babysit?" So we babysit.
So we babysitting tonight.
They haven't been out in a minute. They got the
Right.
kids, so he was like, "You know
They got
what?
2 kids.
We'll take the night off."
They deserve it.
Yeah. No, y'all are so sweet for that, for sure. So we watched as viewers, because I was watching the show. Y'all's relationship on screen, and for me, I mean, for me it was like so dope to see that, because again there's not, I feel like we really are in a new space and era and time where it's being broadcast and shown, and so viewers saw y'all, you know, kind of come together and different things of that nature. For you guys, you know, did you have any, like, did you feel any apprehension, or were you just completely like, let's get it, like, as far as like being so open and public on the show about it?
No, I've had a lot of apprehension. At least I did initially. The show came about just altogether from his brother, and we would listen to him but not take it as serious, just because we're like, oh, okay, yeah, just let us know. And then when it actually hit, that was the first kind of anxiety feeling that I had. And he, you know, was like, hey, you want to do it? This is how I feel. It's something that I'm passionate about too, just being in the entertainment industry. And I'm a spontaneous person anyway, so I was just like, okay, yeah, let's do it. But as it developed into the show, like, and they're like, all right, yeah, we want you to do this coming out video. I mean, I felt like lead feet. I was just kind of like, whoa, am I ready to do that step?
Yeah.
But that was a big one for me.
That was the biggest thing that we wrestled with, because going into it, like, he wasn't publicly out. I was out to like a select circle of friends, but not really, definitely not out to the world or anybody beyond, you know, that circle of friends. And so that was the hard part. And we had a lot of conversations, and we eventually settled, like, if we're going to do this, we got to do it, because, you know, ain't no hiding. Like, I had some friends that were telling me, oh, like, maybe Elliott could just be your friend and people can assume whatever they want to assume. But when we talked about it, we knew that it was more important for us to bite the bullet of how we felt and
be authentic
and genuine, and be ourselves. Right. And I don't think I knew how impactful it would be and the response that we would get, but that was our thinking going into it.
Hold on. Sorry. It's my family. Got you. You know how that be, family be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As far as, you know, going, you know, back and stuff, what was your first impression, you know, of each other?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what, I guess I could, you know, start off with the meeting story and like your first impression.
Okay, so we actually met on Valentine's Day, it's our anniversary, and we were both kind of single. I was kind of on the out. Well, we were single based on the fact that we were alone for Valentine's Day. So how about we'll leave it at that. But we had a mutual best friend in DC, and he invited like a big group of all the single people out. So we just was out bar hopping. If you know DC, we went up and down like the H Street corridor. So we went to like what? If y'all know some of these spots like Maquetto.
Yeah, Maquetto's a big one.
A couple other spots. And eventually, at that time, I had a condo kind of off of H Street. So we all went back to my place. And then we hung out for a little bit. Everybody else trickled out. And then Elliott stayed behind. And no, I mean, we were talking, to be honest. We were having a great conversation. Like, that's one of the things.
You saw how you said I was staying behind, like I was standing in the corner waiting for everybody.
Like, waiting for you.
I mean, you were sitting there. I remember exactly where he was sitting.
Oh,
he was the couch, right? He was in that corner right over there.
No. Continue.
And then, you know, we talked for a few hours. Everybody trickled out. And I said, you should come sit on the couch next to me. And the rest is history.
That's so cute. So, you know, prior, you know, to this, as far as, you know, relationship go, did y'all have like, you know, far in between? I guess, you know, I know the, you know, y'all weren't, I guess, publicly out anyway. So, you know, what was your prior relationship experiences like before this?
Not out, not public.
Yeah.
Like, it would be, you know, it was one of those, like, if I was dating somebody or talking to someone, and even when I was talking to Greg, like, it wouldn't be, like, I would tell my friends, like, oh, yeah, this is this guy I'm talking to, or anything of that sort. Like, I would always play it as, oh, yeah, this girl keeps hitting me up.
Yeah.
And, you know, trying to play that cover. But that's really how I did a lot of my relationships when I was, you know, definitely younger.
No, yeah, it was definitely, I would just say, traumatic. And I mean, I think a lot of us go through that, you know, as gay men, we aren't necessarily taught or encouraged to love each other. We don't know how to love each other a lot of times. And I can definitely say that through this relationship, we've seen that growth. We've done that growth together. But before I dated Elliott, I would not have wanted to date myself.
You know, I love to hear that. I love to hear that. So as far as, you know, your you know, you say, you know, it kind of trickled out and, you know, y'all kept talking. Do you guys really remember like a first date particularly? Or or is it just kind of like, we just.
Because I know what you're going to say already.
Oh, he's messing with my words. So the first date or first dinner that we had was at Greg's place. And he was like, hey, you know, I'm going to cook for you. And I'm thinking it's going to be a normal meal, something that I would enjoy. Yeah, we both would enjoy. Greg had like a 2 or 3 course, basically a 3-course meal. And the first dish.
Correct. Thank you. At least you appreciate it.
I mean, I appreciated it, but I mean, you know. Anyway, he had a first dish, right? And then he had this first dish that had like tomatoes and like this cheese called burrata. I still don't know if I'm calling that right, but
no, that's great.
And like this balsamic glaze and all this stuff, and I'm just like, whoa! I'm in there with jeans and a hoodie, and I'm like, whoa! I should have come up in there with a button up or something, right? And then he did like a salmon. It was good. Like the date was good. We were able to eat. We conversed even more, you know, after that, and like I think we watched like some TV and stuff like that. But it was, I think, in that date, it kind of confirmed even more of our relationship and how we are able to just be around each other without it being some type of prerequisite in order to really appreciate each other.
Nice. So for you guys, you know, you're going through, you know, how were y'all hanging out a lot after that? Like, you know, how are y'all communicating each other? Y'all hanging out?
So the thing, I feel like we almost hung out like almost every single day, because the thing is, we weren't really hanging out in public at that time because our relationship was private. And so we had a good 6-month period. We were just like, so I lived at one end of H Street. He lived like maybe like a mile down at the opposite end. And so they got a little trolley that goes back and forth, and I would hop on the train or he would hop on the train, and we'd go back and forth from each other's houses. But we did that, and then we were afraid to go out to a lot of places. So we'd be like cooking for each other at home, chilling at home, and we really got to know each other a lot faster, I think, than we would have otherwise, because we spent so much time with just him and me. Right.
That's
when I was like, okay, I can do this. And I ain't gotta take him around nobody else to break the ice or keep the, you know, I could actually spend it all day, every day with this man.
Oh Lord, they in the comments asking about weddings and stuff. We ain't got there yet. Oh dang.
Bring them on. Who said that? Bring them on. Put them on the line. We got some questions.
It was Miss Clara Riley Walker said, "I want to know when it's the wedding."
He said what? What did he say?
Hold on, y'all. We go there, y'all. Hey, let's get through the timeline, y'all. Hey.
You're like next.
Yeah. So for you guys, when did you know, like, okay, this is getting serious? Like, what, like, it's getting serious. When did you know?
It was definitely after that 6-month period, because.
Yeah, when did you know? Because I know this. I remember when I told him I loved him, and he looked at me and he said, "Thank you."
So. I think I paused just like that too, but it came out of nowhere. And I'm not a person that just says I love you to anybody. I was just like, oh yeah, I love you. Like, so I was kind of like, well, thank you. Like, I appreciate it. And, I mean, I wasn't gonna lie. I was gonna think about it, but I mean, I knew I felt the same, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to say it then.
Yeah. Ooh, that is, you know what? I think I'd be like, oh. Like the person that's like, thanks. Like I'd be like, ooh, but that was big,
But I think it was about around 6 months. But even then, I mean, we did that 6 months, and then like 2 years in, we had our rough patches, even with that being the case. So like we had a lot of things that we had to work through, a lot of healing we had to do individually and collectively before we were able to get to where we are now, which is, what would you call it? Peace. It's just easy.
It's definitely easy.
It's easy. It feels good.
You know, I really do want to touch on that as far as like the growing pain and stuff like that, because I think a lot of, you know, queer people, we kind of go through a period where, you know, you're not having the same type of out relationships and trials and tribulations that, you know, your heteronormative, you know, friends and, you know, family are and people around you, because you're learning later on. A lot of times people get in a relationship later on. How did y'all work through some of these things together?
It started in therapy, and that's when we started to unpack some of the things that we didn't even realize we had going on within us. I mean, it's a lot of inner work that needs to be done. I think for a lot of us in this community is when you're told that something's wrong your entire life, or you gotta hide it, or it's shunned, it's hard to just be and just love. And
Yeah.
I think in relationships, it's so important to allow love to lead first. It's so easy to pick each other apart. It's so easy to find the things that are wrong. You're always going to find fault with somebody. You can always find fault in almost any situation in life. The important thing is loving through that fault, and to the point where that fault doesn't even matter. And I think with us, at least, with what I saw and experienced, is it was so hard for us to get to that point of just loving each other because we had so much going on inside of us that we hadn't addressed.
Or spoke up about. I think we intuitively kind of thought of what the other person was thinking or what they were trying to communicate or do. And I think with therapy, it really helped us to see, like, oh, wow, I didn't know this is the thought process that you put together before you say this. And I know how people say communication is the key, but it is, but it's also one of those things where you have to listen. Like, you have to have an active listener in order to really, make it work. And I think that's what we became. We became active listeners and then actually executing according to what we hear, because we did love each other.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. I love the therapy aspect, because I feel like we sometimes we don't always have all the tools for ourselves, to figure those things out.
I think importantly, we don't realize sometimes how much we have going on inside of us until we start to unpack it and realize how it manifests in our day-to-day actions and our day-to-day relationships.
Yes, no, totally. I completely glossed over this, and somebody thank you to the person in the comments that reminded me. So as far as like at what point, did you introduce, families and, or let your families know about the relationship? What point were y'all at, and how did that go?
Oof, I think he met my family earlier than he was supposed to. Maybe like, what was it, 3-4 months in?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 months.
It was before the 6
months,
months mark where it got serious. Right. But my sister had a baby shower in Detroit, and it was when my niece Nora was born. What was that? That was 6 years ago. Yeah, 6.5, 7 years ago. And how did we decide that you were going to come?
I do not remember that. I do know that we would travel together already, like going places.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I think that's why.
So we were just like, oh yeah, go to Detroit. I was like, yeah, and it was one of those like, oh, you're gonna meet your parents, and they already knew about Greg and everything of that sort. My family really didn't. So when I went there, I was just kind of like all nervous. I was just like, oh gosh, all right, I'm about to meet Judge Mathis, his wife, Miss Linda. Like, oh man.
And I feel bad because I didn't even realize how much he was going through. So I'm like, my family's so down to earth. I'm like,
and they are. They really are.
And so I'm thinking, like, telling him, like, what are you worried about? Like, chill out. They don't care. Like, they're going to be cool. Like, you're going to have a good time. And he's freaking out. Like, I'm about to meet the whole family.
But imagine meeting, it's fine. Meeting the parents is great. I met his whole family, yo. Like, it was like coming up the escalator, meet the parents, and then like, oh, continue down that way so you can meet the other 200 people. I'm like, ah. So that was my kind of jump into the deep end, meeting the family, and then kind of open it up and stuff. I don't think you met my dad till maybe like
it was
about
4 or 5, I think, actually.
Was it 4?
Yeah, because we have 7 now.
Well, he's trying to add you. Getting right to this.
I mean, you the math man. Let me shut up.
But yeah, he didn't meet my dad and I didn't tell my dad until really like our 3rd year in our relationship. So after I told him, he did meet him like during Thanksgiving. And I don't know, I was nervous. I'm not going to lie. My dad does not play, no BS. So I was like, oh Lord, like what's going to happen?
I was nervous.
You were? Yeah. So.
I love that. And it's interesting because it brings me to the point of, I guess you know, and I could be assuming, I don't 100% know, but like Greg, you've been, you know, even if you weren't like on camera like as much as you are now, you've been like a public figure because of your family. I mean, come on, like your dad is like an icon, you know. So it's for you, Elliott. How was you know, how was it? Did you have any? Did you feel weird like kind of joining like a family that was kind of like just very established stuff? Because you know, were you more of like a private person before this? You know, how was you know, I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, dang, you know, you're not just meeting your boyfriend's family again. You're meeting, you know, a very affluent, you know, very known family. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up with from in the South, just with the nature of respecting anyone, and then even with his dad and his family on just the respect that the world has for them now. I still came in there at that same level, I guess. It didn't, now, was I shocked for some things I saw just with people that are affluent in that sense? Yes. But I was also grounded just because they are grounded, right? Like they weren't, trying to throw like, oh, look at me, look at this or whatever. Yep. They were just grounded, reminded me of my family that I had back in the South. So it wasn't very hard as far as like a transition in meeting them. Like, yes, anxiety that kicks in just knowing them, just not, about them and not knowing them, that was there. But like I said, when I met them, like, it's literally like being in a family. Like, it wasn't where I was feeling like, oof, okay, I'm just going to chill out for a minute. Maybe next time when I meet them, I'll talk more. It was really, they made me that comfortable, and I appreciated that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I love that. I love that. Because I think again, you kind of never would know how people are until you kind of meet them privately. And I see what you're saying on how the Southern kind of like it felt like family and stuff like that. That's amazing. I really like this question because I really am wanting to get y'all's feedback. It says, would you both consider doing a podcast down the road or in the near future?
We've talked about it, but I think for us, it's important to have something unique to say, not just do it to do it. Something that adds to the conversation and not just something that like, oh, we got a podcast, look at us. And so we thought about it, we prayed on it, and I think, we're going to allow God to guide us wherever that leads.
Got you. Nice. So, I think I really want to ask, what is you guys, favorite thing about each other? And I guess, what's your favorite thing about each other? And when I say that, I mean like, favorite, I guess I could say more intellectually or, just favorite thing, I guess.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
And y'all can have to think. I know that was like kind of like a,
I said his faith in God.
Nice.
And I know that can be complex coming from a queer couple, but, I'm of the belief that, man has messed up Christianity and said a lot of stuff that Jesus never said and it's not in the Bible. Yeah. But that's what really attracted me to him because I had, my faith is important to me.
Yeah.
It's on Chrome, let me check. So
that's what happens when you turn 34 and you start talking.
I think my biggest thing is his confidence. Greg has like something that exudes where you want to attach to it, and he helped. And it's not where it's a confidence where he's not being narcissistic about it. It's more of a confidence being like, hey, this is what you should do, and you should fight for this. Like he kind of gives me that courage to continue to kind of press forward when I really don't feel like it or I don't feel like it's worth it. And there's a number of examples where that's happened, but I think that's the biggest like thing I love about him in general. Like that's not too complex.
No.
So
no shit. That was very sweet.
Okay.
And so as far as y'all's years in your relationship and stuff like that, what advice would you give people that want to see themselves in a relationship that lasts in like a long-term relationship?
I guess I'll go first. I mean, my first advice is work on yourself first. Like that's what, and like I talked about this earlier, like that's one thing that I didn't realize is how unprepared I was to be in a relationship. This sounds cliche, but I think it's so important that in order to love somebody else, you really do have to love yourself first. Like, don't rush it. You think you want all this stuff, but you got to be ready for it. Like, you have to do the inner work to be in a place where you're ready to lead with love first and not with trauma, because we all got our trauma. I think our community in particular has more trauma than other communities for a variety of reasons. And so it's like, you never want to bring that into a relationship, in my opinion. You want to come into a relationship ready to pour into, pour out the positive parts of yourself and be able to love on somebody else and not operating from a place of pain that is not, in my opinion, conducive to a relationship.
I love that. I love that. Sorry, I'm learning and I'm getting all these gems. I'm taking them in myself. Like, hold on now, how would you say over the years that your relationship has changed, I guess, or developed? How would you say, has there been any points in time where you've had to like compromise? Which I know one big one as a watcher of the show, y'all moved a big move, and then how was that? I feel like that's a pretty big step to move, basically across the country.
So you asked me one of my favorite things about Elliott, and I said faith, and that's very general, but like under that, it's like the fact that, like, I love the fact that he has faith in the journey of life, faith in our journey, faith in God, but like faith in just the fact that, yeah, I'm gonna move across the country with you, because guess what? Like, this is an opportunity, this is something cool, and this is life. We're gonna experience it together. And I love the fact that he is willing to experience life with me, no matter where it might lead, and I'm willing to do the exact same thing with him. That's another important thing in relationships. I think that people oftentimes come up with all these rules and, of what a relationship has to look like, what a relationship has to be. Every relationship is and should be different. Like, make it to suit you and what you want. Like, experience each other, experience life, have fun together. Somebody asked me on another platform if Elliott and I had an open relationship. And I was like, no, because we still having fun. Like, we still having fun. We're still enjoying each other, exploring each other. And like, we ain't got nothing that we want. Not that we wouldn't, but it's just the fact that we're not at that point. Like, we are enjoying each other still. And so I think it's important to always put that first and not put these arbitrary rules in place, but really, how can we have fun and experience life together? Because that's what I think life is about, and relationships are about too.
Yeah, it's a lot of compromise that happens in relationships. Like, that's the real point of having a relationship. It's not just like a one-person thing or, you follow the leader type of thing. Like, you do have to, when I was talking about communicating and being an active listener, like, that's where you learn how to compromise. Like, some people take compromises just because that's what they've learned and they're just taking it from another relationship to this one. Like, you gotta really understand and be in that real relationship with them to be able to know, like, hey, I'm gonna compromise doing this. Like, normally, yeah, like if Greg was like, oh yeah, I want to move to LA, but I knew already from being a listener that he loved entertainment. He loved like certain facets of being in this area around family, which is already a connection for me. So it's just, being able to kind of decipher through those things. And because it's not like you got to compromise every time. Like, it's not like you have to be able to communicate those things and say like, hey, this is really something I want to do, or it's something that makes you feel awkward. Like, we do it all the time.
And I guess, that's a great way to put it too, because I think compromise feels less like compromise when you are already on the same page about so many things, because you have that line of communication. You've got that connection to where I already know what he's thinking, if he don't even know what he's thinking because I'm around him so much.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I like the compromise aspect that y'all are talking about, because I think people do forget, relationship is two people. Like, I honestly think a lot of people, forget that. And I mean, even within my own like personal self, like, not to get too much of a off track, but like, I think about it sometimes and I'm like, I'm like, are you willing, to compromise X, Y, and Z, or, this amount of your time? And I feel like that is a very, very, solid thing to consider, when you're into relationship, or you're continuing on it. somebody asked, and I wanna bring it up.
I don't like that smile.
No.
Look, I've already told him. I said you got the good, the bad, the ugly, the mess, the not bad.
I thought this one was cute. It's what are your love languages?
For me, it's physical touch, and probably a secondary one, but physical touch is the first one. Yeah.
What is it? Words of affirmation is mine.
Gotcha. Okay, I love that. Sorry, I didn't mean to spook y'all out. It make me think I was gonna be messy.
Both of us got my drink. Oh,
I was ready.
Yeah.
Let me take a sip of my apple juice.
Yeah. This one's really. I think this one's pretty interesting. Let me see. It says, how long did it take for both of you guys to say yes to the relationship?
Depends on your definition of yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Like exclusivity, I would say it was about 6 months, exclusivity wise. Like to say like, hey, it's us. Let's move forward. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, like yes in that sense, but I think in terms of like I said, it's important to really let go and love. I don't know if I got to that phase until like 3 years in, to be honest.
Wow. It's interesting because I'm as a
like
person.
And not to cut you off, but that's the work. Like I said, I
Yeah.
was not ready for a relationship before Elliott, and like I thank God he was patient with me. I was patient with him, and we were able to get to a point where we are in unison and we have that connection now. But it was not easy getting there.
Yeah, no, I think that I said because I think that's really beautiful in the sense of again, I think a lot of queer people can be very green to relationships, and they haven't had as many, and that's just me being 20 something, still like working and navigating through and seeing it, and I don't know, that's real. I feel like that's just so super real. Like you might be in this situation and you're still ebbing and flowing and finding things out, and it's like I personally see sometimes from my own peers like, oh well, they did this so I just didn't want, and I was just like, did you try though? Did you try to work through it? Like, did you it's very, 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 very interesting.
And you got to constantly ask yourself too. And it's like, I do this in life now in all of my relationships. And honestly, everything that happens to me in my life, it's like, is this really something that is disturbing me? Is this really something that is bothering me? Or is there something else behind the way I'm feeling because of this? Do I really care that, I don't know what, you left the cabinet open? And, that's the type of shit that will lead to a knockdown, drag out fight. If I said, you forgot to close the cabinet again the wrong way, and he get mad and say something smart, and then 10 minutes later, we're chasing each other around the damn house, It's like, those are the questions you got to constantly ask yourself is, I love this man. I know I love this man.
Am I really this man?
Am I really this man? Like, what am I responding to right now?
Yeah.
Is it just because I'm tired and I'm cranky and that's why I'm mad about this? Or is it something that's really disturbing me and it needs to be addressed in the way that I want to address it? And I think when you ask yourself that question enough times, you realize a lot of the problems you create for yourself are not really problems.
Ooh. You're preaching.
Shut up.
No, I said, no, wait, hold on, you got it. So I wanted to ask for you guys how important is your physical connection in your marriage. How do y'all keep that type of stuff alive? How is that for y'all? You did say your physical touch, so I'm really curious about that.
No, we've definitely gone through our phases, but it's about that connection. For me, intimacy is about energy, and I think for you too, even both of us, it's about the energy, it's about the vibe, and we've learned that by strengthening our emotional
connection is like big, and it really helps. I'll just say in the intimacy or the intensity of the intimacy when in relationships, like you'll probably be in gray or whatever area because you are in an emotional whatever area at that point, but you may still be able to still have sex and do all the things that you like physically like in the senses of like being intimate and having a physical touch. But I think we've learned in our relationship.
It ain't the same if that right? And that's to my point. And that's how you, in my opinion, that's how you keep it fresh. You work on that mental connection, that spiritual connection, that vibe. Like the sex comes. The sex is good if you work on that part.
Yeah, that's another thing. I you know, feel like people don't understand that. Like, again, that's something that you have to work at. You know, it might not be, you know, perfect how you think it is. I feel like some people think that, you know, what they see in other things is like just the real life, but I feel like there's awkwardness and different stages to it. So I like that you said the working, you know, working at it.
It just makes things easy. Like we could talk about when we horny or what makes us horny or like what we want you to do, what we want to do to each other. It's just a whole different vibe than when you are not in sync or have, you know, doing what you need to do to maintain that connection. And like I said, that's inner work for me, inner work for him, in order to get to that point of being able to love on each other the right way.
Perfect. So I really like this question, and I feel like it's really it could, you know, it's pretty broad for a lot of people. They ask, how does your faith and sexuality coexist if it does?
Oh, faith and sexuality.
We probably have different opinions on this.
They do exist, at least for me. I mean, I grew up as a Christian, so my faith in God has always kind of stayed the same. I've kind of made sure that the inner workings of me still follow those principles in the senses of how I get through my day-to-day. Now, in regards to my sexuality, like, I'll be honest, like, I'm still learning and working through it, to be frank. Like, I feel as though I know I've had the same type of anxiety in embracing it the same way after I came out, but I know the foundation that I have whenever I do feel low or whenever I feel high. Like, it's always good things that I throw back to God, and I think that's how I coexist with both.
Yeah. And for me, it's a little different. I just don't necessarily, you know, I am a Christian, but I don't believe the Bible is, I believe man has had a lot of, you know, they've touched a lot of the Bible, you know, everything that we read in the Bible is important of a guide as it isn't necessarily relevant to the times that we live in. You know, it's people who had their own personal relationships with God that put things on paper that we're supposed to follow. But, you know, if you know your history, you know that there were votes about what got in and what didn't get into the Bible. You know, this is something that is not necessarily the word of God. Jesus never said a word about homosexuality. Jesus talked about love. Jesus talked about the poor. Jesus talked about accepting everyone. And so I have worked to develop my own relationship with God, and that's what I focus on, and not necessarily what some other man tells me I should or shouldn't believe.
No, I love that, Greg. Because I completely, I think that's that can be a lot of queer people's, you know, kind of standpoint on that, where it's, you know, especially in today's times, which we know how things have been last, you know, year and a half, 2 years. Like there's been like a constant barrage of just attacks to us and stuff like that. And, you know, I think
the craziest thing in the world is like, if you really read the Bible, like the Bible is a guide on how to maintain and you know, cultivate your relationship with God. It's not a rule book on like, let's shun everybody that doesn't follow this to a T, because half the shit in here doesn't even make sense. And so, oh, I'm sorry. I told you I'm a new age Christian. I believe God put us on this earth to experience, to love each other, to take care of each other, not to tell each other what to do, not to fight each other, not to tear each other down. And, you know, I might get banned from the church for saying that, but that's the way I believe.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree. And then I kind of want to piggyback on something that Elliott said that I feel like is such an important thing when you know, I think when you talked about still, you know, working through, you know, your sexuality and accepting it. And I feel like people don't understand, people don't understand how that is still an ongoing process, especially when you think about, you know, especially with you growing up, you know, more so in the church, you know, it's it's just, I mean, you can't just like automatically, you know, come out and still not kind of, you know, deal with those, you know, insecurities and things like that. And I feel like that's really a really important thing to say, because I generally don't think that, you know, I think people think, oh, you're out and you're happy and you're proud, and it's like, well, yeah, but you know, we still, just as every other human being is working through things and learning things about themselves, it's like, you know, I thought that was, you know, I really appreciated that.
No, it's true. Like, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, since I got on television, it's a flip of a switch where I'm just, oh yeah, I'm fully out and this is just me. But I really recognize the progress that I've made. I mean, that's how I'm able to continue to move forward with it. And I don't know, I'm learning. Like, I learn every day. Like, I mean, through the Gaye platform here, like everything that I encompass is really inherently is teaching me. And not to say that I'm falling in line to that or not, like it's more of just me, you know, like Greg was saying, having that inner happiness. What is making me feel happy? What is making me not feel like, oh yeah, I want to continue pushing forward with that. Like, that's just the growth when it comes to life.
Gotcha. I love that. I do want to play like a quick, you know, little corny game. It's not gonna be nothing too controversial or nothing.
You know we like corny.
I need the cryptics.
It's kind of like, I'm like, you know, who is more likely to do said thing, you know, type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to start off with this one. Who is more likely to make a scene in public?
Oh, please.
We went to South Carolina, and
no, he deserved it.
So we went to South Carolina. I was visiting my cousins. This is when he first drank moonshine. So we were going there, and it was like the road was an accident or whatever, right? So fire trucks were out there, volunteer fire trucks. So we're pulling up in our little rental car, trying to get around, and the police officer walks up to the car like aggressively, and he's like, "Move, move, move!" Greg, I'm gonna let you do the reaction of what you did. But Greg basically yelled.
I'm still working on myself.
Yelled at this officer, volunteer fireman or whatever. He said, "Well, you ain't gonna talk to me like that," like pointing over me. And I'm just like, "Whoa, bro! Like, chill out. Like, we about to get. I don't want to get tased in South Carolina."
I said, you are on the job. Your job is to protect and serve. And the way you're acting doesn't fit either of those categories.
He said, "You won't talk to me." First of all, he did not have that tone. He was not talking like that. Not even close. But yes, he is the one to break out in public. Please believe he will.
I love that. That is so funny. That is such a good story. Who is most likely to trip on their own 2 feet?
Damn, that's me again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not the most coordinated.
Who is most likely to break?
Tell a story that you didn't tell.
Which one?
Nothing.
Oh, I mean,
hey, I ain't gonna tell on myself. If he ain't thinking
oh, I'm like, who is most likely to stay up all night talking?
You. No, that's you.
No. What?
Wait, talking to who? Me?
Just in general, talking. You know, y'all talking to each other. Like, who's the one that's like, okay, it's time to go to sleep? Like,
I think
you know, who's.
I forgot about all the nights in DC when I would literally go upstairs and leave him and his friends downstairs talking. And they would stay up to like 5 and 6 in the morning. And I'm like, about 2 or 3. I'm like, okay, it's time to chill out.
Maybe 3, but not 5. But yeah, I think in LA,
I mean, it was good. I just ain't got that energy.
So okay, I do, because somebody, you know, they've been asking about, you know, this you know, these proposed wedding plans, but I do want to back up and talk about, like, you know, y'all's proposal, you know, we know, and that type of deal. How was that? You know, for those of us that weren't with you on this journey yet, how was that?
Good.
The proposal?
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet.
Oh. I'm like, so what they talking about some wedding? If it ain't... So how are we feeling about...
Wait, I'm gonna step out of the conversation because I told Elliott that he has to propose. So I'm gonna let you, Elliott, go ahead. You got these questions.
What's the question?
They said when is the question being popped? You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer.
I'm just saying they can stay tuned. Where you going?
I'm letting you have some time in the spotlight.
They can stay
Not
tuned.
the spotlight.
Stay tuned. It will definitely be happening. I know we did the pump fake on the show, but it'll definitely be happening sooner than you think. Honestly,
I said New Year's Eve came and went.
See,
my birthday came and went.
There we go.
Valentines Day anniversary is not over yet, so we still got some hope.
Yo,
maybe this babysitting my nieces is an elaborate ploy, and I'm gonna go over there, and my whole family and friends are gonna be over there, and it's gonna be like, maybe that's what's gonna happen tonight, right?
Yeah, every time we go out with the family or with friends, like they're just everybody camera out, is looking at like, is it now? And I'm just like, oh man, like this is intense. Don't worry, guys. I will let you all know. Trust me, and it'll be.
And then, beyond because the weddings does seem like it's gonna happen. If I feel like we're inching closer and closer. Are you guys in a position where you want to eventually have kids at some point? Like, is that something you've talked about? Like, where are your thoughts? Where's your head on that? With that?
No, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we do want kids.
Yeah. Nice. And then, do you guys know how many? Have you gotten that far to talking about it? Like,
I think we said 2 at one point. I don't think I would want to go above 2.
Definitely want more than 2.
Yeah.
What makes you not want to go above 2? Like, why do you think that? What makes you want to stay at 2?
America, this shit is expensive. I'm sorry. I didn't drink too much of my apple juice in here.
Oh, you didn't? You didn't lie. You did not lie. Really, it's like, what do you mean, kids? In this economy, like, what's going on there?
You got to travel. How you gonna be running around the world with 4, 5? I guess Jay-Z and Beyonce can do it, but we ain't got that.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother.
We ain't there yet. We ain't no Kim K. We ain't.
That is so. I'm trying to sort through some of these questions. I thought this one was really interesting, and just kind of funny, but this was kind of silly. But if people don't know that you're in a relationship, do y'all ever get approached by women, and how do you deal with it?
Yes.
Everywhere.
How do we deal with it? Usually I'll just say, oh yeah, me and my partner, or me and my boyfriend, or kind of gives that deer in the headlight face a little bit, and then just push through the conversation, or you just kind of.
But most women now will ask. I think the first question.
Yeah,
a lot of times, the first question will be like, "Oh, you single?"
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting because I wondered that too. For a lot of other people too. Like, we're in a more inclusive world now. So everybody's dating everybody, or everybody's understanding like the openness and stuff like that. So it's very interesting. I think that's like just a sign of our times and stuff like that.
Yeah, but there's some women with Elliott that won't give up still. They're like, I don't care. I want him to have my babies.
No.
Think about one person in particular. We had an incident.
Oh, now hold on.
Elliott has a what would you call her? A fan. She was a persistent. She's actually a friend, but she was like a friend of a friend. But she was like, Elliott's gonna be my husband. I don't give a damn about Greg. And I was like, okay, we're gonna see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't end well for her. You know how this is. So, I mean, it wasn't a horrible thing, but it was, yeah.
That is, I love that. Okay, I'm looking for some more questions. Let's see, you guys. Anybody have any questions, comments? What is, as far as you guys like ages? Is there like, what's y'all's age gap? Are y'all in the similar age range? Like,
Kind of. He's 5 years older than me.
5 years older than him.
Nice. Do you find that age difference like to be challenging, or do you think that's like a doable age difference? I'm asking for myself just because, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm noticing now, like, okay, I'm only 27, so I'm like, I'm starting to date older now rather than go backwards, because I'm noticing that like if I go backwards, it's just not, it's not gelling well. I feel like I'm in a different, you know, like
But
space.
then there you go, because like that's your answer right there. I found that I typically dated older men just because I was kind of more mature. I did a lot of dirt when I was in high school, so I was over it by the time everybody was doing what they were doing. So I was like more chill. I identified more with older people.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do it. Yeah, like I always tell people, do what you want. Don't let these made up rules like change how you operate.
Comfortable, whatever feels comfortable.
Because you only get one life.
Yeah.
God.
If you want to date a 60-year-old man and go live in Maui, I encourage it.
Yeah.
What else will say that?
Okay, Maui.
Ain't that what bro?
Stop.
Y'all are so funny. I something that I completely like missed over earlier for you, Greg, was, you know, I read somewhere, and this like really moved me, where you felt like you would possibly bring like shame to your dad or your family with your sexuality and stuff like that. You know, that's a lot. I feel like that's such like a burden for somebody. And you know, and this you know, that's the one question, and then my other is, you know, for both of you guys, how early on in your like life did you feel like you were, you know, attracted to men, or you know, how early on was that for you guys?
Yes, I answered both of them. I was like probably 5 when I figured it out, which is tough because I knew that I had to keep it a secret. And just thinking about, you know, obviously most people watching probably identify with this in some way, shape, or form either, but I went to the Church of God in Christ, Kojic Church, one of the most, you know, still one of the most unwelcoming when it comes to the queer community. And that was tough, and that ties into why I was so afraid to come out of the closet, because in my world, the Kojic Church, you know, this is like the worst place you could possibly go, the worst thing you could possibly do. And so in my mind, I'm like, I can't do this because my whole family is going to get, you know, this is going to fall back on my entire family. And I lived with that shame, that guilt, that burden up until the point where I came out of the closet. And like things have changed so much, I feel like, in just even the past 5 years, to where people don't care as much, but that wasn't always the case.
Yeah. I think so for me, I was engaged to a woman before. So I didn't go through with the marriage because in that time I was like, okay, I was kind of debating and fighting against my own urges that I had as far as my sexuality. And I didn't want to get married knowing that truth. So I didn't get married, you know, kind of called off the engagement and everything of that sort. I think that was around 23, like in my 20s, I would say, when I really kind of like just locked in and saying like, you know, still not out, but at least affirming myself with my sexuality.
Nice. That's awesome. It's you know, man, that's a tale as old as time as far as people being married. You know, I had a close family friend. They were married for like 40 years, and he came out way later. Yeah, but you know, I do want to thank you guys so much. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I, you know, want to first off thank you guys so much for coming on with us and, you know, talking to us. It's really cool. It's, you know, you know, I feel honored because, you know, I watch the show, and you know, it's so good for me to, you know, be at the age and see the representation, and you see y'all on TV, and I can only imagine like how people way younger than me feel, you know, that, you know, me personally, I was watching E, and I was watching, you know, I was on MySpace and back in the social medias looking at stuff. So, you know, I follow you guys and I see what you guys are doing. So I want to thank you guys so much for, you know, doing that. Because, you know, it's so much more impactful than I feel like any of us can even ever fathom sometimes.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you're right. It is, because I feel like the generations under us, they literally don't care. And it is because of the work that you're doing, the work that so many of us are doing to be visible. And, you know, sometimes people will say what they want to say, but to your point, I think it's so important for all of us to be visible in the way that we live our lives, because it creates a safe space for other people.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
I hope that you have a fantastic anniversary and Valentine's Day. I mean, that's freaking iconic. I'm sorry, like y'all ain't that's really cool.
Well, right? Wouldn't it be great if he proposed on Valentine's Day too?
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. You guys, thank you so much. And I cannot, wait to keep following what y'all are doing. Make sure you stay in touch with us. We would love to keep connecting. And, if y'all have anything you want to promote or, work, we're always here for you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Likewise.
All right. See you.